Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to
It's time. Hello.
Hello, boy.
Let's go. Hello, boy. What's going on?
Not much. We're here. Let's all go to the lobby with a very special episode. The end of the year list.
Yes.
My favorite episode.
This is the best episode. I'm Nico.
I'm T-Kettle.
How's it going, guys? How's it going? How's it going? You guys having a good holiday? Because we're having a good holiday. How was your New Year's?
Excellent. How was yours?
Pretty good.
Dude, did you go to my favorite place yesterday?
I didn't. No, I unfortunately didn't go there.
Oh, bummer, man.
Yeah, I know. I was supposed to go to round one yesterday. It didn't happen.
That's my favorite place.
I kind of asked this girl out to go to round one.
Oh, yeah?
And she didn't see because we were texting on Instagram, so there's read receipts.
Yeah.
So I know for a fact that she didn't actually see my text message until
bummer.
the day of.
Bummer.
And she's like, oh my God, I've been working all day. When are you going? And I'm like, I'm going tonight. She's like, oh my gosh, okay, when are you going? And I'm like, 8:30. She's like, oh, I still have some work to do. I can't make it. And I'm like, fudge, man.
Bummer.
You know what else is a bummer?
What's a bummer?
Here's a bummer. You know, I have a group of friends called the Lit Boys, right? And we've been meaning to do this gift exchange for a while now, because we all bought gifts for each other.
Yeah.
I got a notification saying that my gift for one of the guys was going to be late, and it's still not fucking here. Like, at first, I ordered it on the 20th, and they said it's going to be here by the 27th. And I'm like, okay, fine, I don't need it on Christmas, just kind of around.
What website?
Well, I can't say, because then it would spoil the gift if they're listening.
Gotcha.
But, like, it said it was going to arrive on the 27th, and I'm like, that's fine. I don't need it on Christmas, just kind of around.
Yeah.
And,
this is really late.
And then on the 27th, then they email me, they're like, oh, we're not going to get it to you by the 27th, we're going to give it to you by the 2nd. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I get another email, we're going to give it to you by the 4th. It's the 5th now.
They better get some money back.
I know, they did give me a discount.
Okay.
But I'm like, guys, like, we've been meaning to do this gift exchange. We're all waiting because there's one gift.
Dang.
And I'm like, okay, guys, like, come on now. Like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, that is.
Like, oh my gosh, that's nuts, dude. So I'm a little, like, annoyed. Because I'm like, this thing it was supposed to come yesterday. So I was thinking, okay, maybe today we do the gift exchange after the podcast. Nope. No, it's not here, so.
No.
Anyway.
Dang. It's unfortunate, man.
It is. So let's get, speaking of unfortunate, if you guys don't know from last year's episode, we do our top 5 worst of the year as well as our top 10 of the year.
Can't wait for that.
So, but before we even get into that, let's just, what are our thoughts on this year as a whole?
This year sucked.
It was a bad year.
It's a bad year.
It was a very bad year.
Probably like 10 of the films that are on my top list wouldn't have even made it on my last year's list.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because I was really busy this year. This is probably one of the busiest years of my life. I did miss a lot of movies. Mm-hmm. So that might be a part of it, but the fact that even you are saying, and you saw some of the films that I didn't get to see.
Yeah, but I have been watching a lot of end of the year lists from other people, and there's a ton of movies on there that I haven't seen. Tons of movies that aren't even showing up in our area, like
True.
Portrait of a Lady on Fire doesn't come out until February.
Yeah,
which is stupid.
1917, which won't be in our area until
God knows when.
Yeah, freaking next month. So there's a lot of films we haven't seen.
Yeah.
This year. That
goes without saying. I think it goes for every year.
Yeah, but this year especially for me. So I don't know if that really kind of contributed, but I still think as a whole, like Chris Stuckman thought this year was amazing, and I'm like, I don't think so at all. And I'm like, this year is really bad. Oh, look at that! Someone on a motorcycle. I don't know if they picked that up.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that have been saying that though. I think, what's that guy? Royal Film Society?
Yeah. Royal Ocean or whatever his name is.
Royal Ocean. Yeah, he said that it's a great year too. So I don't know. Maybe they're seeing something that I'm not seeing.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna move this a little closer. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
no, I mean, Chris Tuckman even said, "Oh, this is way better than last year. Last year sucked," and I'm like, I freaking loved last year. So we're on a whole swapped thing here. Yeah, but yeah, this year was not great. But let's capitalize on how not great this year was with our top 5.
You got 5?
I don't. I only got 3.
Okay, I do have 5.
Okay, our top 5 worst films of the year. And disclaimer here, as we usually do, we're not professional critics, so we're not paid to go see every movie that's released. So when a movie is bad, and when it looks bad, we don't go see it because it looks bad.
Yeah, that is true.
So don't expect the real worst of the year films to be on our list because we didn't see it. We're not going to see Cats. We're not going to pay money to see that.
Cats.
You know, that's probably the worst film of the year. So this is going to be the worst films of the year that we saw. So you guys might be a little pissed off at some of our
and that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Because I think we both got films on here that are generally liked and yeah.
Yeah. So, first off...
You can start with your first two, because I only got three.
Well, again, I have a special mention, because this would actually be the worst, but, like, it's technically an episode, but people consider it to be, like, a movie, or these to be a movie. That Miley Cyrus episode of Black Mirror is the worst thing I saw all year. It would be number one, if that counted.
Yeah,
that movie's dog shit.
You know what? That's funny, because that was a bad episode. I saw that was
terrible.
So dumb.
Probably the worst episode they ever made.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5, dude, it's Dr. Sleep. It's a sequel to a movie that was never released. It has the King and the Kubrick worlds, which should never intermingle, in my opinion. And it just, like, I don't know, it doesn't prioritize properly to me. I think it really needed a little bit more development for the girl. To me, it's bland, it's bloated, and repetitive.
Okay.
And then number 4 is Zombieland Double Tap. These characters have become obnoxious as the writers flaunt their most annoying attributes. And the humor has aged horrendously, man. It just should have stayed a one-off romp.
Okay. All right. My number 3 is The Lighthouse.
Knew it.
I thought this movie is all style and no substance. And please do not give me, and I'm talking to the audience here, please do not give me you actually just didn't get it. It's actually a retelling of the story of Prometheus. I'm like, motherfucker. I'm like, are you Greek? Guess who is Greek? This guy. Do you speak Greek? The Malawilenika Malaka? Okay, no. Ohi vre. Okay, I speak Greek. I know my Greek mythology. This is obviously a retelling of Prometheus. It's a parable about Prometheus with little hints of an allegory about the story of Zeus and Poseidon. And I get that. But to me, if you're going to throw me in a scenario with these characters, at least give me something to attach myself to. And I didn't give two shits about any of these guys. And I'm like, now I'm just watching a slow burn descent into madness, which I've seen done better many other times before in different movies. Just this year, in my personal opinion, with The Joker, which I thought was a way better depiction about a man descending into madness than The Lighthouse. And you're gonna give me that stereotypical depiction of that with just characters I don't give a shit about. And I'm like, all right. I don't necessarily think the movie's pretentious, because I don't think that. I think the movie is more style over substance. But, again, it's like the movie didn't give me enough shits to give in order to look deep into it.
It's funny that you brought all that up, because I actually never heard anybody say that. Well,
really?
I don't really look up too much stuff about it, but it seems like every time I do talk to somebody, just like friends and whatnot, they all have like a different like view on the film.
Yeah.
And that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that personally. My number 3 is The Joker.
Oh God,
this Joker, baby.
I'm not gonna say anything because I'm just
gonna say 2 things. Because we've already talked about this movie.
Yes, we have.
I don't think Todd Phillips knew what he was trying to say, or even worse, he wasn't able to convey it. And given that it's tied to public violence, and given the radicalized society we live in, ambiguity is not the answer.
Oh, I got a lot to say about that, but I'm gonna wait.
You do your thing, man.
I'm gonna wait. My number 2 is Pet Sematary.
Ooh.
I bet you forgot that a Pet Sematary movie came out this year. It did. To me, this movie is just the epitome of the whole mentality of every horror film recently trying to be Hereditary. This film, to me, was like the biggest example of that. Like when someone says, oh, every horror film today is trying to be Hereditary, like which film? I'm going to say Pet Sematary 2019. Mm-hmm. Because it really is trying to capitalize off of the success of Hereditary. It's just kind of forgettable. The characters don't really have anything to do. They try to change it up from the book. I think some of the style is okay. I mean, it's competently made, but it's just there's nothing there to keep your interest throughout the film. And then a bunch of the character decisions that are made throughout the film are just they're off character. Like they set up this character to be one way, and then they have him do something that's completely out of his character, and that happens with multiple characters throughout the film. And it's just not scary. It's not creepy. It's honestly kind of lame. And, it's just really forgettable.
What's
movie.
worse, this or Slender Man?
Oh, Slender Man is... that's a whole different thing. Like, Slender Man is like... Oh, my God, dude. Slender Man was, like, abysmal.
So, to me, it seems like your worst last... You had more worst last year than you did this year.
And, again, like, all these top 3 worst films of the year for me aren't necessarily, like, horrible, horrendously bad films. They're just the films that I saw that I didn't like. Because, again, when I see a bad film... when I see a trailer for a bad film, my first instinct is not, oh yeah, I want to go see that.
Yeah.
You know?
True. Here's a movie you probably forgot even came out.
Mm-hmm.
Teen Spirit.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah. Fanning's origin is about as compelling as any other American Idol's aspiration, so it's not. It's hideous in its presentation, minus the 5 minutes of music video aesthetic. It's lifeless, it's petty, dreadfully dull, and poorly acted.
All right.
Yeah, terrible movie.
All right. So now we're getting into my number 1.
Yeah.
So, again, I've had a couple films on here that people really liked. The Lighthouse got good reviews.
Okay.
And this one also got good reviews.
Really?
Ready or Not.
Oh, shit.
I'm sorry.
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but Ready or Not to me was a film that I didn't even want to see because it didn't look good in my opinion. I went to go see it with some friends because it was the only thing out. And I was actually somewhat with it. I was like, okay, like, this is an okay kind of, home invasion style thriller, whatever.
Uh-huh.
I know it's not technically home invasion, but you get my point.
Yeah.
Cat and mouse type thriller. And I'm like, all right, it's not like the best thing I've ever seen, but at least I'm not bored. And then when that ending happened, I was like, this movie has become one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. That ending to me, which a lot of people seem to like.
Yeah, me too.
I thought was so stupid. I leaned over to my friends Mitch and David as it was happening, and I'm like, what is happening? And then they came up to me after the film, and they were like, what was that ending? And I'm like, that was so dumb. I think they shouldn't have explored that aspect of the movie. I won't spoil it, even though it's been out. But it just really dropped the ball for me. And I'm like, this film was not good, but it was just watchable until that ending to me. And I was like, this is just so stupid.
Yeah. I'm in agreement with you, though. Like, the beginning of it, it's, like, fine. But I thought, to me, that boosted it.
So I feel like the ending was, like, a risk that the filmmakers take, which I guess I can appreciate, because some people really liked it and some people didn't. I just really didn't. I'm like, I thought it would have been better if they went the complete opposite route and they didn't introduce that sort of supernatural aspect to it. I'm like, I wish they just didn't do that, because I thought it would have been a lot more funny if they did that, because the film is a horror comedy. The cinematography and style is... The production design is really good, but I feel like the cinematography is actually kind of bad. It's really washed out with orange, and it's all handheld, so there's not a lot of, like, pretty shots, it doesn't really match up with its production design, which might have been the goal, to show the juxtaposition between, like the horror and the wedding kind of aspects of the film, but to me it didn't come across very well executed, so.
Okay. You're number 1.
That's my number 1.
Which, to me, like, it doesn't seem like that bad compared... I'm just thinking about last year's. We were so, like, enthusiastic about this list.
Dude, Ready or Not, I mean, all these movies are a masterpiece compared to, like, Venom. But, like...
Oh, dude, I totally forgot about Venom.
Yeah, that was our number 1.
Dog shit movie.
That was both our number 1 last year.
I tried to erase it from my mind.
Yeah. But I really hate that ending.
Yeah, because my number 1 doesn't even touch Venom. It's Rise of Skywalker.
Really?
Some of it uninspired, some of it dumb and silly, all of it bloated and messy. This movie was sort of doomed to fail after the backlash its predecessor got, forcing it into a new direction while also wanting to honor tradition. Clearly, no one knew what they wanted with this finale, and it's very evident with the first entry. There's so many left field reveals with no foreshadowing and a lack of explanation. They should have made this into 2 movies, and even then, I don't know if that would have saved it. The only thing that I can think of where it's like, this is why people could like it, is if you're like, you still cling to it, you're like a fan, like, because it's a poorly made movie.
Yeah, it's a very messy movie.
And like, I don't even hate it because like, maybe part of like maybe the flame hasn't flickered out entirely, but I can't say
it's funny not to get into a whole Star Wars digression. First of all, for worst of the year. I mean, I wasn't the biggest fan of the movie, but I definitely wouldn't put it worst of the year. I think there's still some merit to it, but it is. I think we can both agree because I've been reading your Letterboxd. It is better than the prequels, at least. Am I right?
Oh yeah, there's almost no redeeming qualities to them, unless you want a good laugh out of like the Anakin scenes.
Yeah, but not a laugh for the for the right reason.
Bad.
Yeah,
was he trying to do Shakespeare? Like that's what I felt like.
I honestly, George Lucas is renowned for not being a great actor's director.
Yeah,
and I think that shows because. Man, even everyone sucked in those movies. Everyone sucked in those movies. From my point of view, the Jedi are evil. I'm like, come on, man. That was a written line of dialogue.
Yeah.
Ugh. Anyway, but Star Wars, it's funny that you mentioned that because I want to ask you a question that I've been thinking about. Because my friend asked me about the cinematography of the new trilogy, and because he really doesn't like The Last Jedi. And he's like, come on, man. You got to admit, Last Jedi has the worst cinematography. And I'm like... Say what you want about the content of Last Jedi, but I thought The Last Jedi had some of the best cinematography.
Oh, easily.
Like the whole red kind of like theme throughout the entire film, I thought was really cool. Like the whole red and black kind of throughout the whole theme of the movie was really good. And even the Canto Bight sequence, like that really cool tribute shot to Wings. Mm-hmm. You know, the 1920s film Wings was really cool. And I'm like, he's like...
Wait, is it the part where they're like running on the things? They're on the back of those, I don't know, those whatever, animals or something?
No. The Wings is when, it's like that dolly shot through the tables in the Canto Bight. And so, you know, in the 1920s silent film Wings, which is a classic, there's a revolutionary dolly shot where it goes from table to table.
And then they spread out.
Yeah. They did that in Last Jedi in that casino scene.
That's sick.
I
forgot about that.
Yeah, it was a very obvious tribute shot to Wings. And he's like, no, dude, Rise of Skywalker had the best cinematography. And I'm like, The Rise of Skywalker, and I was thinking this while watching the movie, and I want to see if you agree. I thought The Rise of Skywalker cinematography was very claustrophobic. Everything was like a close-up.
It's because there's so many cuts in that movie that you can't even appreciate a shot, even if it was good.
Right. That's true. And I also feel like there were a couple times in the movie where I'm like, just pan out a little bit. Like, zoom out a little bit so I can see the environment. Like, everything felt really stagey and just everything was so close up and chaotic. And I'm just like, I can't really process it. Like, the environment, the beauty of the shot, I can't really process anything.
Yeah. I totally agree.
The movie felt very claustrophobic, and honestly, because of that, kind of low budget.
I think the cinematography needs to be bigger anyway. I mean, it's a Star Wars movie. It needs
exactly.
to be, like, epic.
So it was very weird how I thought it was very paint by numbers, very very claustrophobic. Yeah. But I definitely wouldn't put it as worst of the year for me. But I have been playing Jedi Fallen Order, and I'm starting to get reminded why I love Star Wars again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
That's sick.
I'm like, okay, you know what?
Play that game.
I get it now.
Even though I hate EA.
Yeah, I'm not part of the whole gaming community, so I don't have any grudge against EA. I don't.
Yeah.
You know, I never buy anything like that, but I can understand why people are pissed. I'm gonna give you this unfinished game, and then you're gonna have to pay for the rest of it. But the unfinished game is gonna be $60 still.
Yeah.
It's like what?
That's a classic nowadays. Microtransactions.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we're getting into our top 10.
Which is not top 10 for me.
Which is not top 10.
But you have honorable mentions, so, right?
Well, here's the thing with me, and for those of you who are just watching this list as your first video, I highly implore you to watch the last one as well. For those of you who don't know, my honorable mentions are different than, like, my overflow list. I have an overflow list because I feel like, for me, an honorable mention is something that I liked, but it's not going to end up on my best of the year list. Unless we did like a top 100, but at that point you're just scraping the bottom of the barrel, you know?
Yeah.
But like, to me, these films I just enjoyed, personally, but I don't think they're good enough to be on the list of best films of the year. So I can't, for the life of me, put some of these films that are on my list as honorable mentions because they're just too good to be honorable mentions. Like I watched, Chris Tuckman did a top 15 best films of the year, and he put Endgame as an honorable mention, and I'm like, nah. I'm like, it's too good to be an honorable mention, so I got a couple honorable mentions here.
Okay, yeah, and, I mean, I had to scrape a little bit. I picked anything that was, like, a 7 and above, and I don't even have 25 like I usually do. I only have 23.
Well, so do you have a list of you got your top 10, and then you got your honorable, and so you do it kind of the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I get you.
So how many do you have total?
Honorable mentions, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
6? So I have 23.
Wow. What the hell?
I have 23 movies together, so, like, technically I have 13 honorable mentions.
Okay. So...
let me just cruise through. You mind if I just cruise through some of these?
Yeah, cruise through.
23, we have Arctic. 22, we have Knives Out. 21, Downton Abbey. 20, Spider-Man Far From Home. 19, The Farewell. 18, In Fabric. And 17, Under the Silver Lake.
Okay.
So you want to take it from here?
Yes, and again, my honorable mentions are not my best of the year. So there might be some movies on here you're like, oh, what? But just stick with me.
Okay.
So, honorable mention, Happy Death Day to You.
Okay.
Just a really fun movie. I really liked the first one. I thought the sequel was really funny, and I enjoyed it. The next one... Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to go? You can go. We'll go by one now.
16, Atlantics. I literally just finished this before you got here.
Really?
I liked it. I liked it a lot. It was actually came in second for at Cannes.
Nice.
Against Parasite.
Nice.
Yeah. Good movie.
Nice. My next one might really surprise you. It's going to really surprise you. Mm-hmm. Doctor Sleep is an honorable mention because I've actually been thinking about this film in retrospect, and I've been starting to like it more the more and more I think about it. I don't think any filmmaker is untouchable, to be honest with you. And I feel like if anyone has ownership over The Shining, it's the man who created The Shining. And if the guy wants to do a sequel to the book that he wrote, and then the director wants to pay tribute to both of these creatives, I think, all the more power to him. And I think Mike Flanagan had a very difficult task ahead of him. But honestly, in retrospect, I think he pulled it off the best he could. And I think, again, no filmmaker is untouchable. And I think, I don't necessarily think he was mooching off of the style of Kubrick. I think he was just trying to pay tribute to Kubrick and King at the same time. And it's like, it's funny. It's like he's the friend who's like trying to... He's the friend who's friends with these two other dudes who don't like each other, and he's trying to mend the relationship. You've ever been in like that situation?
Yeah.
It feels like he's just trying to be like, no, you see, like, they're good people,
he's the mediator.
Guys. Yeah, he's the mediator. And I think he does a good job. I think there's enough in this film for me to be like, you know what? I actually kind of like that film.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. But again, it's just an honorable mention. Mm-hmm. It's not on my list.
Number 15, Marriage Story.
Dang, that's an
this is a really good movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's really sad. It's really realistic. It's got a very mundane score from Randy Newman.
Yes, yeah.
It's it's an enjoyable film. It's a very interesting structure to the film.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that. It climaxes 30 minutes before the movie ends, which was kind of it's kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
Epilogue is very good. Very emotional. Very good movie.
Mm-hmm. My next one is Us by Jordan Peele. I like this a lot more than Get Out. It was just a really good home invasion thriller with some really, really cool ideas. And it's been a while since I've seen it because I think it came out in February. Mm-hmm. So it's been a while. But I liked it for the most part. And I thought it was really good, really suspenseful. And I thought the humor landed much more. But there's just a couple things, a couple plot holes where I'm like, I don't know about this. Especially a twist that comes later, and I'm like, that kind of introduces a lot of different plot holes, and I'm like, I don't know if I buy this. And then there's a lot of, symbolism in the film that I necessarily still kind of don't understand what they're trying to say with it. But overall, good film. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My number 14, One Cut of the Dead.
Never even heard of this.
This is I believe it's a Japanese film. I don't want to say anything about this movie, at all. Okay. This is groundbreaking as a meta film. It's groundbreaking as, a genre film, as a comedy. It's a very funny movie. It's also pretty well made. The first 30 minutes of the movie doesn't not cut, whatsoever. Mm-hmm. It's a very interesting film. And, yeah, you should totally watch it.
All right. My next honorable mention, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. It's a fun little Halloween movie. I would never watch it any other time besides Halloween, to be honest with you. Because there's a lot of times where I'm like, but the potential is there. And it's a fun little romp. It's a fun little romp. That's all I got to say.
Nice. This next one, I believe, is the movie that you're like, do you remember it? I do remember it. The Standoff at Sparrow Creek.
That's the one.
Yeah,
that is
we
the
watched
one.
it. I really enjoyed this movie. It's like a very absorbing, like thriller almost. It's like a mystery on who stole this gun and like killed a bunch of people at a police funeral. And like, there's a lot of interesting lore going on outside of this warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
There's some really cool shots in it that like feel like Leone. Yeah, it's just a really fun movie.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think both of us had our fucking jaws on the ground when this movie ended.
That was fucking crazy.
Yeah.
All right, my next one is Shadow. Yeah.
Yes!
Yeah.
Yes!
So, yeah.
You watched it.
I did. I liked it a lot. I thought it was really cool. The only reason it's an honorable mention and not on my top, my top favorites of the year list is just because I feel like it could have pulled on the emotion of the story a little more. Just like the emotional aspect of the story, I feel like it could have it could have pulled on those strings a little more. But the style, cinematography, the fighting, the story itself is just really cool. Everything about it is just really, really cool. I just feel like the characters should have maybe just a little bit pull some emotion out of it. A little bit more. Like even when I'm not gonna spoil it, but when the main character goes back to a certain place from his childhood and then finds someone in a state he didn't expect to find them, I feel like they could have drawn that out a little more.
Yeah.
A little more, make it a little more emotional then. Because right after that, something happens to where it's action again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay. But yeah.
I'm glad you watched it.
Mm-hmm.
My number 12, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This movie is really fun.
Yeah.
It's really fun. A lot of people say that it leads up to like one big punchline. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think it's enjoyable all the way through. It's a good like testament to like old Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that you can extract from it that's like not said, but it's like kind of like a reference to something that actually happened in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's playing with a little bit more like weird styles. Like I definitely get like a Rob Zombie feel from like the Charles Manson group.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I really enjoyed this movie.
Okay. My last honorable mention is The Two Popes. Netflix has been really killing it this year. The Two Popes is an honorable mention simply because I think it's a very good film, and I like the fact that it doesn't take the stand of just shitting on Catholicism. I mean, I'm not a Catholic, but still, it's in the Christianity family. So I'm just like, okay, it's so easy nowadays for Hollywood to just shit on Christianity, and this one doesn't. This one shows Christianity in a positive light, even though it's two different sides. It's a much more liberal pope talking to a much more conservative pope. The only thing that's really keeping me from putting it on my list is two things. One, I feel like it kind of assaults me with its style a little bit. They have the same cinematographer as City of God, and it really shows. And I'm just like, this is a very weird choice for cinematography when it's literally just two popes talking in a room.
Yeah.
And there's like really weird snap zooms and everything's like handheld, and I'm just like, this is just kind of odd.
Yeah.
Also, halfway through the film, it grinds to a halt to kind of shove this political message down your throat out of nowhere about building walls, and it even shows like the Mexican like B-roll of like the Mexican wall being built and stuff like that, and I'm just like, okay, you stopped this movie to throw this message in. So, good movie, but those things kind of stopped it from being on my list.
Yeah. So this is 11. This next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These next 5 were way harder to pick than anything else on my list. I really struggled to find out like which.
So is this your last honorable mention, or?
This is my last honorable mention, but it goes. I mean, they're all pretty like closely knit, like very close movies. Mm-hmm. Number 11, I ended up going with Shadow. Yeah, so I really like this movie a lot. I think that every character, even the side characters, are really well developed, and they have like an emotional arc. Some of them I feel like trump the actual main character and their arc.
That's true.
This movie looks great. I love the muted grayscale of it. I love some of the set pieces, like especially that stadium, that boat.
That's like awesome! Yeah,
wooden. Oh my god, it's so cool.
It's so cool.
And just like the choreography is great. It's really creative in its delivery. It's a movie I really enjoyed.
Mm-hmm. A lot of twists and turns in that movie, especially at the end. You're just like, what the
Which
fuck?
I think they got a little carried
It got
away
yeah,
with.
that's me too. I was like, they got a little. It was a little too much. Like I feel like they did one twist too many.
But for me, I thought the acting was really good, especially like the Emperor.
Oh yeah, he was great. He was great. Okay, so now we're getting to our top 10.
Yep.
Here's the thing. I do have an overflow list, though. These are the films that I loved that I think are too good to be honorable mentions. But, again, they're not... we're only doing 10. So I can't mention them. So I'm just gonna list them off here. And then we can get to them, if that's cool. Mm-hmm. So, John Wick 3. Loved it. Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. And Knives Out.
Okay.
Let me just count real quick. Oh, okay. I got to put in one more. Fighting with My Family. Really good film.
Okay.
Yeah, really good film. So, those are my overflow lists. So now we can get into our top 10. Which, those overflows are technically in my top 10. But, you get my point.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want me to pick one?
Go ahead. You can start with your top 10.
Number 10, The Souvenir.
Nice.
Which is a movie that we watched a trailer of, and we were both like, I don't know how we feel about this movie. If I remember, it's Tilda Swinton, and her daughter is the main character in this movie.
Oh, wow.
This movie is really interesting because, like, from a humanity standpoint, I didn't really feel all that much emotion. It really made you, like, pull it out yourself. You have, like, dialogue that shapes the impression of the characters, and it kind of read as, like, he loves me not. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't really tell you what the situation is, how much time has passed. You just see, like, small glimpses of gatherings, like, on, like, a 1 minute apiece. And so, like, the movie moves around a lot, cuts around a lot, and I think that really worked for it. And then, like, additionally, like, the cinematography says, like, way more than the characters do. Okay. Like, it really sets the mood for, like, everything, and I found, like, really cathartic moments just from, like, the cinematography. It's more of a cerebral watch than it is, like, I guess an emotional one. It is both, but it really makes you work for it. Yeah,
I unfortunately didn't get a chance to see it, but I will say when I watched the trailer for it, when we watched it for this podcast, I did kind of think it looked kind of like your typical slow burn drama from A24 type thing, and we didn't really know what it was about.
Yeah, so, it's definitely slow burn, for sure.
Yeah, and they're making a part 2.
I know, which is kind of weird.
Is it really?
But I mean, it's like an autobiography, so I guess it kind of makes sense.
Okay.
There's two things about this movie that were really interesting, though. Is like, one, there is like a point in this movie that something like crazy happens, and I feel like they just sweep it under the rug, which was nuts. It like kind of shook me to my core.
Really?
But it kind of works with the relationship that you have with this character, because it's clear that this guy is like kind of a piece of shit, and it's like she can't help but cling to him, though, and it's like it works in that regard. And then there's another thing that I haven't seen anybody talk about, but I'm pretty sure that it implies something that's like jaw-dropping, like what the fuck, and I don't really feel like anyone's talking about it, so it's really interesting. I like the movie a lot.
All right. By the way, sorry to do this to you. I hate backtracking, but I totally forgot to mention another film on my overflow list.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna mention that, and then I'll go to my number 10.
Okay.
I forgot to mention Shazam.
Oh, okay.
I think it's a really fun romp. You were a little harsh on it.
You were a little harsh on it. You can't.
Dude, you gave it a lower score than Your Movie Sucks, and I'm just like, oh my god. And I'm just like,
I don't know, like
it's just a really fun kind of tribute to Big, and I think it really captures the love, the kind of fun-loving spirit of the superhero of Shazam, aka Captain Marvel, as he was originally known. And the cinematography is nothing special, but I feel like it's just the charisma of the characers. I was like, this is fun, and it's funny.
You're spying on me, man.
I am.
It's I enjoyed like half of it, and the other half I was like, I can do without this.
Oh man, I thought it was just really fun.
Kind of hit or miss for me.
I thought it was just really fun. I was like, this is what DC needs to do. A really good, fun superhero movie.
Colin's the one who made me watch it, and then I think when he rewatched it with me, he was like, yeah, I don't think that was as good as I remember it being.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I bet you I'd still like it.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I really like Shazam. So all right, let's get into like my list my 10.
I want you to do 2 because I kind of want you to end. I want to end. Just humor me and do 2 right now. Okay?
Do my number
10 and
9.
Yes, please, if you don't mind.
Okay. Number 10 is a movie that when we saw the trailer of, we thought this movie was going to be terrible.
Really?
We thought it was going to be horrendous, and I was like, this looked really bad. And then I saw it on Amazon, I watched it, and I'm like, holy crap. It got good reviews, and I watched it, and I'm like, wow, you know what? This actually was a good movie. Number 10, Hustlers.
Oh!
Yeah, Hustlers was actually a good movie, and I was like, what? Like, Jennifer Lopez gives a good performance? Like, what? You know? It's a really cool story about not just like strippers and stripping, but it's about how these strippers scammed a bunch of Wall Street guys out of their money and kind of destroyed their lives while having like no remorse. And the only thing about the movie that's a little iffy to me is the movie kind of asks you to sympathize with these characters when I'm like, they are literally destroying lives right now. It's like, I don't know if I can sympathize with these guys, you know what I'm saying? But overall, like, the pacing, the style is really cool. The editing is really cool. The use of color is also really cool. And the way that the story flip-flops from different points in time, I also think is really cool. And it actually just, it kept my interest throughout the film. And I'm like, holy crap. And I was going into it, I was expecting like this really heavy-handed anti-men message. Because, you know, from the trailer, I mean, come on. You know, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially in the time we're in now where everything has to be overly politicized. The movie doesn't really do that. It doesn't really overly politicize its message of like, oh, men suck or anything like that. It doesn't really do that. It just kind of shows you like what these women did to scam these people out of money and what you know what this movie is like? I'll tell you what this movie's like. This movie's like The Big Short, but with strippers.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I love that movie.
Yeah, there you go. So I thought it was really good. That was really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been hearing good things about it.
Yeah. Okay, so you want me to do my number 9?
Yes, please.
6, 8, 9, 10. All right. My number 9 is Standoff at Sparrow Creek.
Okay.
This was a really cool kind of mix of David Fincher, Sergio Leone, and Alfred Hitchcock of like, you don't know what's going on, and it's kind of like a whodunit in a sense, and I really like that. It's a really bare bones style, and it takes place in Michigan, so that already kind of adds another level to me. Hearing them talk about places that we've been to, I'm like, holy shit, you know. And there's a lot of twists and turns, and I just love the dialogue-forward discussion. This almost Tarantino-level dialogue about this one main character who's trying to dissect everyone's brain and trying to figure out who really did this thing. And then the last reveal of who actually did it is freaking amazeballs. Yeah. You know, I'm just like, no freaking way. It was something that we never expected.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And the tension of this film, the whole motif of the ticking clock and like the light that ticks and then it finally goes out.
Yeah.
Amazing. Loved it.
Yeah, really good movie.
It was a really good movie. It's on Hulu now. You guys should watch it. Because when we watched it, it wasn't on Hulu. It was just straight to DVD.
Actually, I bought it for you. Wait, did I? Yeah, I bought it for you for the
Oscar challenge.
Yeah, the Oscar thing.
Yeah, and that's
that ain't gonna happen this year.
No fucking way. Oh yeah, are you sure? But yeah, and then they put it on Hulu like a couple months ago, and I was like, and then people started talking about it, and I just, you know, I kind of had that hipster moment where I was like, I mean, I already saw it. I saw it first. So,
yeah.
You know.
I was there.
Yeah.
Cool. My number 9, which is kind of shocking to me, it's The Irishman.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that shocking? Because it's so low?
I thought I could have sworn it was going to be higher. And the movie is awesome. It really is. Like, what I said in my review was, like, does it need, from a narrative standpoint, does it need to be this long? Not really. There's easily stuff that they could have cut. Like, I don't think it has the consistency of it, and I don't usually like to, like, talk bad about a movie when it's on my top 10 list, but I'm just kind of giving you insight into what I think that is. Mm-hmm. But, like, fundamentally, thematically, I don't think I would have changed anything. By the time this movie ended, I feel like I was with them for so long, and I had been on this, like, long journey, this decades of journey, and I understand, like, it's really hard. The disappointment, I guess, the shame in this character and his decisions. In the last 45 minutes, I would not change a damn thing about it.
Yeah.
Like, I loved that.
It's amazing.
It's like Scorsese's Once Upon a Time in America, where, like, it plays with a lot of the stuff that he was known for, but he kind of has, like, this, like, sympathetic, like asking for forgiveness, like, tone to it.
Yeah. It almost makes you sympathize with this terrible person.
Yeah.
And then you start to realize, I'm like, oh, wait, yeah, he's kind of an ass. He sucks, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And that's a job well done for the filmmaker.
This is, like, it still has a ton of personality from Scorsese. It's still, like, really entertaining for the most part. It's more so informative. Like, mega informative. Like, I know I heard some, like, gossip and rumors about, like, what actually happened with the story, but, like, I didn't actually know what was going to happen piece by piece. And also, it kind of takes that, like, those really bold, like, that bold gossip and, like, makes it, like, nonfiction, which I think is, like, also pretty interesting.
All right.
I really enjoyed this movie.
Nice. Okay. All right, so I'm on my number 8 now, right? Uncut Gems is my number 8. I really like this movie. The Safdie brothers have a really cool style of just making the movie chaotic, and there's just absolutely, like, no levity, which I usually don't like, but I really like being on the edge of my seat pretty much the entire film. Mitch just saw this. Mitch and I had an hour-long conversation about this film yesterday. Literally yesterday. He hated it.
Wow.
He hated it, but he liked it objectively. He said objectively it's a good film, and he gave it a 4 out of 5. But he said subjectively, he gave it a 1 out of 5 because he doesn't like dealing with anxiety. And he says he goes to movies to escape anxiety, and escape his anxiety. And he said this movie just just made him feel even more anxious, and he just walked out feeling disgusted. And I'm like, guess what, Mitch? That's exactly what the filmmakers wanted.
Yes.
That's exactly what they intended, and they achieved their goal. And he understood that. Which is why he gave it a 4 objectively.
Which
but
I
he
respect.
Said which he said it wasn't for him personally. And I'm like, I get it. It's like a hereditary thing for me. Objectively, I can see why people like it. For me, no. But Uncut Gems to me is like, it's so fast-paced. It's so adrenaline-filled. It's so, like, it's such a mess. But this is the first time I've used it's such a mess in, like, a good way. Yeah. And, like, as, like, a positive for the film. Because so much is happening with this character, and honestly, to make a character like this, who, by the way, Adam Sandler gives his best performance in years. Ever. What am I talking about? Years. Ever. And to make this character, to almost make you root for this really terrible person is a very hard thing to do in movies, and they pulled it off. And the ending, I know some people are divided on the ending. I mean, a lot of people haven't really liked this film because the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is only 50%.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's rotten, the audience score. So I don't know why people necessarily aren't connecting with this film, and I think it's because of the ending. I appreciated the ending because I liked the poetry of it and what it was trying to say. I won't spoil it, but I think they ended it pretty well. And it matched the style and what they were going for. And, yeah, I absolutely love this film.
Yeah. Number 8, The Last Black Man in San Francisco.
I didn't get to see that one.
Beautiful movie. It's poetic in its presentation. All of these movies that do this, like, really cool, these cool, like, camera tricks, this cool editing style, they only do it for, like, 30 minutes, and then they just kind of let the story, like, kind of suck you in. And this movie kind of doesn't do that. This movie is very much, like, mostly style. You have two characters that are basically brothers. They know each other so well that they don't even communicate, and that's something that I enjoy about them. That's something that people didn't enjoy about it, is because you wanted to know more about them. But I think that, like, the mood and how they, like, I guess the presentation and how they reacted to this city, which the city is in itself, like, probably the most important character. I think that said a lot more about them than they needed to say through dialogue. So, I don't know. I thought this movie was absolutely stunning. Probably maybe the most poignant film of the year. I don't know. It's close, but it's gorgeous. I loved it. Great soundtrack. My favorite soundtrack of the year.
Nice.
Yes.
All right. What am I on? 6 or 7? 7. Yes, 7. Martin Scorsese's The Irishman. This is his 3.5-hour epic, and it's very, very well done. And being that it's 3.5 hours, I was expecting to be bored throughout most of this film, but I was never really bored. That being said, I did start to feel the length, so I did watch it in 2 parts, just because 3.5 hours, it's a very long time. But I watched it, and being that we're from Detroit, the whole Jimmy Hoffa kind of legend is like very rampant around here. I mean, people still talk about it today. So it was really cool seeing an exploration of what could have happened to him, because we still don't really know. And Frank Sheeran's book, a lot of people will say that that's not how it went down, because there's a lot of discrepancies. But still, it's a very cool movie, very good movie. Seeing these legends on screen together for the first time in years, or for the first time ever even, was great. Like seeing Pesci and Al Pacino and Robert De Niro all in one movie, all interacting with each other at the same time. I mean, you can't get past that. I mean, that's just awesome right then and there. This is kind of it's a much more mature film than Scorsese has made before, and I think this really kind of shows where he is in his place in filmmaking. I did read your Letterboxd review, so I want to talk about some things. So de-aging. What did you think about it?
It doesn't provide them with the energy that de-aging does. So I don't know. I'm not
going to pretend that this is the best de-aging I've ever seen.
It's not.
It's not. It's not even close. But overall, I think it still works for what it does. And you also said you kind of wish they shot it with film.
Yes.
But to me, that kind of puts a whole end to this whole film versus digital debate, because that 90% of this film was shot on 35mm, right?
You can do both though. I just want like a grainy look for like the older segments, and then like even if you wanted to change it to a more digitalized look, that would be awesome for like the later segments of the film.
Yeah,
but I mean, time goes by.
Well, they shot all of it on film except the de-aging parts.
Yeah, but you can't really tell.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But that.
I think that defeats the purpose for me.
Well, I mean, digital and film are almost on the same level now.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't tell a difference anymore. Yeah. Between the two. Anyone who says they can, I think, is kidding themselves. And I say this as a guy who lives and breathes filmmaking every day. I'm like the one that killed it for me was Walk Among the Tombstones, where I was like, this was I would have bet my life that it was shot on film, bet my life on it because of the way it looked and the grain and all that, and then I found out it was shot digitally, and I'm like, well,
yeah, yeah, it's just a shame. It could have. I think it could have benefited from a Mean Streets look for the older segments.
So even though they shot it on film, you wanted it to look more like it was shot on film?
Yes.
That's strange.
Yeah.
That doesn't make much sense to me, but all right. Okay.
I just like grain, man. It's kind of like I like the cracking of like vinyl.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
So you like tradition?
Kind of.
If I always say, if a lot of these filmmakers had the same mentality with film as they did with cars, they'd still be riding horses.
Maybe.
Tarantino would still be riding horses.
I think there's a time and place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think that another movie that would have benefited from it was like White Boy Rick. I think especially some of those shots in the night.
Yeah.
Like it would have just really look good.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess. I don't know. I think the whole film versus digital thing is kind of just a moot point if the story is good,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, The Irishman, really good, but not one of his best, but very good.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got to really say.
We're 7? Okay, to end the 5 that I really had a hard time picking between is The Lighthouse, which is the one that I ended up going with for my favorite of them. I love this film, and it's like I said before, like it seems like everyone's got a different take on it. Like Red Letter Media definitely felt like there was like a homoerotica vibe to it, and some of the cinematography like help enhance that, which is something that like I picked up on like subtly, but like I didn't know that it could have been like full blown or anything like that.
I picked that up too.
I think that this film is very interesting in its descent to madness. I know you said that it's not your favorite. The way it was done, but for me it was like the unreliable narrator. It was like all these contradictions. It was the structure of the film and how funny it was. It doesn't seem like you thought it was.
I didn't think it was funny at all.
It was funny as shit.
I laughed one time.
Yeah. I thought it was really funny, which is weird. Because usually, like, it starts off as, like, this very menacing, like, brooding style, and then it jumps into that, which is kind of, like, a weird transition. But I think it really worked for this film. I really like the lore of it. Like, it's kind of like European folklore, almost. I just liked everything about it. It was an interesting experience, and I feel like if I took this journey again, I would see something else entirely.
Well, I'm glad the movie made you care enough to rewatch it.
Yeah.
I don't care. Because I don't want to be stuck with these characters I hate. You know? Or not even hate, just I don't care about. I'm like, what am I'm just bored by these two. It's like, yeah, they're yelling at each other, but I'm like, okay.
That was funny to me.
Yeah, nah, not for me. Well, I'm glad you liked it. Alright, my next one will be 6, I think. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Okay.
This is Tarantino's 9th film, and it's definitely not his best, but I think it's still a very worthy addition to his filmography. I really liked his play with history. I kind of knew going into it that he was going to play with history, and it kind of ends in like, I'm talking the very, very end, after the whole punchline part happens. It's kind of poignant, and it kind of shows, like, this is what could and maybe should have happened, in a sense. And it's kind of beautiful in a way, showing, like, that we kind of wish that this, Sharon Tate would have had a life going forward, And I just really liked the story and the cinematography and the love letter to 60s Hollywood, and was amazing. Especially because during the 60s, Hollywood was kind of going through this different period where some actors were going to TV and, like, kind of being stuck there and kind of going by the wayside and stuff like that, which has always happened in film, especially when the talkies came around. A lot of people couldn't adapt, and now this was kind of starting to happen in the 60s, where a lot of television, or a lot of movie actors were going to Italy or going to television, and it's really cool seeing an exploration of that. And being that it's Tarantino, it's very hyper-stylized, and I really liked it. I don't like the way they portrayed Bruce Lee, especially because of when his daughter comes out and says, I don't like that, then I'm like, okay, I have to side with the daughter on that. I can't side with Tarantino on that. And there's a few things here and there I'm like, I don't know. But overall, this is one of my favorite Quentin Tarantino films, because I'm not a guy who just sucks his dick every single day. You know what I mean? I'm sorry. Again, like I said, I don't think any filmmaker is untouchable, and I'm not going to sit and praise someone when they do something that I don't think is good. You know what I mean? But this film is one of my favorites from him. I really loved it.
Nice.
And I like Quentin Tarantino as a person, too. So.
My number 6 is Uncut Gems.
Nice!
Uncut Gems, man. There was one thing that I was thinking about while I was, like, way afterwards. I was like, it's an interesting, like, I guess, flow to it. It's way different than Good Time, where Good Time is just, like, one thing after the next, and everything kind of, like piles onto each other, and you just have this whole mess of a situation. And it becomes, like, almost confusing on, like, how we got this far. In this film, it's kind of like everything happens during business hours.
Yeah.
Like, all the nonsense happens, and so it's, like, fragmented, but it makes sense. It's like all these people want to, like, his phone is ringing off the hook. People are coming to him, like, asking for money. People are looking for him on the streets. Like, it's chaos then. I mean, there's some people that, want to fuck him up after hours, but it's like, it's still cool the way that it flowed. I think it worked well for the character and stuff like that. It's an interesting character study. It's very entertaining. I got really absorbed into, like, almost every, like, bit of dialogue. I love the score, even though, like, I think it doesn't always work for me, but I love it nonetheless. From One No Tricks Point Never, who did the Good Time soundtrack. It's like, it's great. It's one of those movies where it's like, you can see it, like, look at it at base level and just be like, this is really entertaining, or you can, like, dig a little deeper and then, pull some other, like, intellectual shit out of it. And it's, like you said, very very stressful film. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, very stressful. All right, my next one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so we're in our top 5 now. Holy crap.
Yep.
Look at that. All right, man. My number 5 is Spider-Man Far From Home. I fucking love this movie, dude. This is the Spider-Man film that I've been waiting to see. I liked Homecoming. I did. But to me, I felt like they were trying to And I understand why they tried to do it, because we've had reboot after reboot of Spider-Man. They were trying to distance themselves as much as humanly possible from what we knew Spider-Man to be. And I'm like, okay, I get why you're doing that, but at the same time, you're losing the essence of the character. I'm like, you're losing who Spider-Man is and what he stands for. And this film, to me, finally, they're like, okay, let's bring some of that back. Let's bring some of that back into Spider-Man. Okay, the fact that he's a teenager who is trying to have like this normal life and just trying to kind of date MJ is really cool. And the fact that he has to balance his home life and being Spider-Man, I felt like was portrayed much better in this film. Also, just finally seeing Spider-Man swing through Manhattan finally was awesome. And just kind of seeing him come out on his own, because one of my biggest complaints in Homecoming too was the fact that he just kind of seemed like he was the sidekick to Iron Man, and I'm like, I don't want Spider-Man to be Iron Man Jr. I want him to be Spider-Man. And I feel like he was much more Spider-Man in this film, and he carried his own. Also, Mysterio is a very cool villain, probably one of the best depictions of a comic book villain I've seen in a long time. Jake Gyllenhaal gives a great performance, while being he gives a good fake performance and a good real performance, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And that whole Mysterio mind trip scene was absolutely fantastic. Some of the best special effects of the year, I think, in my opinion. And overall, this film also has probably some of the best after credit scenes of any Marvel movie.
The best.
The best, yeah.
Yeah.
And the stakes are high in this movie, and I like that. And it was I was a little nervous going into it because, you know, I'm like, I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. I'll just be real. I'm like, all right, how is this going to top Endgame? Did it top Endgame? Of course not. But I'm like, okay, it wasn't like Infinity War going into Ant-Man and the Wasp, you know?
Yeah.
Where you have this really big high and then kind of an average low. For me, I was like, it was a really big high and then a smaller, yet still pretty big high. And I was like, all right, I like this a lot. So...
Nice.
And they brought in his Spider-Sense, dude, finally. Oh! So good. So good.
I like that it was like more of a Peter Parker movie. I think it needed
Exactly.
that. Spider-Man had a cameo.
Yeah, exactly. There you
go. So my top 5. I gotta say, for me, this has been a really good year for like big movies.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit. Number 5, a movie that should have been a small movie but then turned into kind of a big one, Midsummer. Fuck, I love this movie.
I haven't seen it.
So,
I didn't see it.
It's so interesting, and like, it's like it has such a great like starter. Like he just understands drama, and that's exactly what this foundation of the film needed. And then, like, additionally, even though he says that, like, his heart wasn't into the horror elements as much, like, I think he did a really good job with it. Like, some really interesting, like, research on these cults and stuff like that. And, God, it was creepy. The fact that it was all in sunlight was, like... God, I love the Jacob laugh. The fact that it still could remain so creepy, and like the fact that like the drama was just propelling it. Like thematically this movie is great, and I think that's why the ending works so well. You just really need to see this movie. I'm kind of surprised that you didn't see it just for this list.
Yeah, I was so busy this year, man. I just had a hard time.
It's just so fucking good, man.
Yeah.
I definitely really want to rewatch this movie.
I'll rewatch it with you. How about that?
It sounds good to me.
That's when I'll watch it. There's a lot of films I haven't seen this year. I wanted to see Honey Boy. That came out this year, but it was supposed to come out on Amazon on Christmas, and it didn't. It's coming out this month. Also, Peanut Butter Falcon.
Oh, yeah.
Another film I wanted to see. Didn't get to see it. I don't know. So that's why also some people might view my list as subpar or whatever. But I'm like, but I still love all these movies. And even if I did see these films, my top 5 probably wouldn't change.
Yeah.
Number 4, which I guess is fitting, Toy Story 4.
Yep.
Absolutely love this film. When they announced the Toy Story 4, I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, why? I'm like, why do this? Because the third one left on such a good closure. And I'm like, please at least make this film good. And they did. This film, to me, I honestly think is probably... I think I like it more than 3. I think I like it more than 3.
I do like it more than 3.
Oh yeah, you definitely do. But like, I really like this film. I know that some of the characters kind of get sidelined, but I think it really is a story of Woody and about moving on. And it's so poignant and just I love it. And Pixar really knows how to take these adult themes and kind of not talk down to kids with them. You know, they treat the kids like adults, and that's why adults really like these Pixar films. Is for the same reason, is that they don't talk down to them, and that there's a lot in this film that is great in all aspects. Even the cinematography is they put effort into it. It's funny how you mentioned a split diopter shot.
Yes,
because there was a guy, I can't remember if it was Nerd Writer.
It was.
Okay, yeah, he talked about it. He's like, this shot proves to you how awesome it is, and you mentioned that before that video. Even.
Yeah.
So. The fact that they put effort into the lighting and cinematography and the animation is just gorgeous, the best it's ever been, is also really great. And the ending just, to me, again, is very mature and it's just so good. I teared up. You know, you've grown to love these characters, and then going through this, you're just like, what more do they have to say after the third one? And they actually had more to say. And I'm like, I cannot believe you did that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
And I feel like it's not a cash grab, and I'll tell you why. You know what is a cash grab? Putting out a movie the next year without putting much effort into the story. I just saw Jumanji 2, which I think is okay, but you can tell that they rushed it and basically just did the exact same thing just to capitalize on the success. I think Pixar and I think Toy Story 4 took its time, and I don't think, with all their properties, I honestly don't think they would have made a Toy Story 4 if they didn't have something to say. And they did.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Totally agree. My number 4 is John Wick 3.
Okay.
This is like the most fun action movie I think I've seen in a while. Maybe like since Fallout, and I'm still like I still struggle between the two because I love them so much. Yeah, I think the lore is crazier. I'm so interested in this world of John Wick. I've watch these scenes. It's not even that I watch like one scene over and over again. I watch like tons of the scenes from this movie, and I love them. Like I was watching it yesterday, or watching the raid, where it's just like the tower defense scene at the end of the movie, like towards the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And I forgot how goofy the villain is in this movie.
Yeah.
He's such a goon, and I love him.
He really is.
Just the tone of this movie is just so fucking fun. It's funny in it's like delivery of its action. Mm-hmm. It's almost like a Buster Keaton type thing. Like whenever like some guy gets like hit by a horse or whatever and just goes flying, it's I laugh.
Well, they embrace that too, because I think I don't know if they do it in this movie as well, but you know, in the very first scene in the second movie, they're watching a Buster Keaton movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember, but it's projected on the side of a building.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
and it shows Buster Keaton.
Yeah. That
So
might be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the villain really is goofy. I kind of laughed at this part when he was like, John Wick.
Yeah.
Like,
dude, I love like towards the end of the movie, he's just like, "I'll see you later, John."
Yeah.
And he's like,
"Is this the dog? Is this the
dog?"
dog?"
Yeah, it's so good. I just love this movie.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. Those dog action scenes with Halle Berry.
Creative
amazing.
As fuck with this choreography, man.
Yes.
And this murder death can be really fun.
Murder death? Okay. Alright, my number 3 is Marriage Story. I think this is probably one of the most accurate depictions about a divorce ever put to film. I really, really love melancholy love stories, and this to me just, it jerked me off right in the right places. It was...
Oh boy.
It was so good. Woo! We're getting there now. It was so good, dude. The acting from Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver is spectacular. And I'm not talking about just that one scene where they argue, because I know a lot of people are going to that scene and they're like, oh, this just shows how good the acting in this movie is. Of course, that scene is great, but even the scene where, like, the worker comes over to try and, like evaluate their parenting is so well done, and there's like a lot of weird tension in that moment.
Such a weird scene to follow up the climax with, dude.
But it's so well done though. I think it's perfect, and like I don't necessarily think this movie even has a climax or even needs a climax. I think it's just a really good linear story about what it really is like to go through something like this, and it shows the trueness of how these two characters, they really love each other still in like a platonic sense, but they've just fallen out of love with each other. And the thing that binds them is their children, or their child. And it kind of shows how malicious divorce can be once you bring in lawyers, and it almost becomes like this weird game that you're just thrown in the middle of, and it just becomes a real sad kind of movie and a real sad kind of tale, especially with the symbolism in this film. I also think is really great. I won't spoil it, but what are Adam Driver's Halloween costumes both times? There you go. That just shows his character and what his character means in that moment. I'll just spoil it right here. I don't even give a shit. The last thing he is a ghost. Everyone else is the Beatles, and he's like, oh, I didn't bring a costume. And he's like, oh, I'll cut you out a sheet, and you can be a ghost. And he's just walking around as a ghost with his son, his ex-wife, and her new boyfriend, who are all the Beatles. And I'm like, that is fucking brilliant. That is brilliant right there. That is brilliant symbolism. And then earlier on in the film, when he starts being absent more, he's the Invisible Man.
Yeah.
Fucking dude, like, oh my gosh, Noah Baumbach, dude. This is semi-autobiographical with his marriage to Jennifer Jason Leigh, and I fucking loved it. And I loved how it didn't harp on their careers too much, on like that they kind of are like well-established actors, actresses, directors, or whatever. It doesn't kind of focus on that a lot. It focuses on the actual marriage story between them, and I'm like, this is fucking great.
Yeah, that's just like a tension between their life, their relationship.
It's the cause of the tension, but they don't focus on it too much. Like, they don't have a bunch of like group of people come up. Oh, can I have your autograph? Take a selfie? Like, and then the husband's like feeling really bad about it. It's like because she's getting more famous or something. There's like a little hint toward that toward the ending, but it's not overdone, and I highly appreciated that.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite movies of the year. I loved it. Netflix has been killing it this year.
Nice. Number 3, Toy Story 4.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, you pretty much got most of what I wanted to say about it, but man, this unlocked something in me that I didn't really know that I needed. It was almost therapeutic.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. I really like the characters in this one. That's what really separated the third and the fourth one, because I don't remember a damn thing about any of the characters in the third one besides maybe the villain character. But all of these characters are pretty great. Even like the really small one, like the guy who just wanted a little high five, is great. Forky is the reason this movie should have been made, because additionally onto what you said about like moving on and stuff like that, it's like the identity of a toy.
Yeah.
It's really philosophical.
It really
and even Bo Peep, she is a completely different character in this one. It feels like we're actually getting to know her for the first time in this movie. So she feels fresh. I love this movie. It's beautiful.
Beautiful.
Great.
It's so good. All right. My number 2.
Here we go.
Is The Joker. This movie is fucking amazing, dude. Okay. You gave this a 4. I take umbrage to that. Okay, the cinematography, the directing, the amazing Oscar-worthy performance from Joaquin Phoenix, and the amazing score. I think the best score of the year from Hagar Hitalad, or whatever her name was. I think easily make this at least a 7. Just that alone. I mean, the amount of creativity and effort put in this film. A lot of people say it's a ripoff of Scorsese. I think those people need to fucking look up the definition of tribute, because it's a tribute. Okay, there's a difference between a tribute and a ripoff. Okay. This is a tribute to Scorsese cinema, and I loved it. And a lot of people think it might not bring anything new. I totally disagree. This is a really cool descent into madness. Everything you said that you liked about The Lighthouse, about its ambiguity, its unreliable narrator, everything you said in that moment is why I like this film. And this film, to me, is just so good in its depiction of mental health issues and descent into madness. And the fact that someone could take what this film is saying and take it both ways is absolutely amazing. And I think a lot of people who don't like this film they don't not like it because of the film itself. They don't like it because of the controversy or the world surrounding it. Because all the issues I hear people have with this film, it's nothing about the actual film. It's always about what this film could do in this society. And I'm like, what the fuck? I don't care about no. Show me talk about the actual film, not anything else, because I did rewatch our episode where we reviewed Joker, and I still don't fully understand why you don't like it, and I don't really think you fully understand why you don't like it, to be honest with you. You even said that in the podcast. I think this film is just amazing. I mean, the performances are great, but even from diving deeper from that level is just what this film is trying to say and how you can interpret it in different ways is so true to the character of the Joker. And a lot of people seem to forget that this is a comic book film. It's a DC film about a character. It takes inspiration from The Killing Joke, and as a matter of fact, it pulls back from The Killing Joke and The Dark Knight Returns, because in The Dark Knight Returns he also goes on a talk show, and guess what he does? He murders the entire audience. So the fact that some people are saying that this movie is tone deaf and it doesn't like know what it wants to do is completely misguided, because this film knows exactly what it wants to do, and it shows in the fact that they made it a more personal story. Instead of making it a story about this crazed Batman villain, they made it a much more simplistic character study over who the Joker really is, and making an origin story for the Joker, a definitive, quote-unquote definitive, because you don't know what's real or not, origin for the Joker is a risky move, and I didn't think it would pay off, and it absolutely paid off. So this movie, I think it's sitting at like a 68% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. That shit's way too fucking low. And again, if people could just separate the real world drama from the actual film and maybe look at the film and not mention, this promotes mass shootings, this promotes incels, this makes you sympathize with the psychopath, blah, blah, blah. I think that's ridiculous. Like, look at the film as a whole, and you'll see that it is fantastic, and most people love it. But I've been watching. You know that Netflix series You? I just watched season 2 of that show. Mm-hmm. That show makes you straight up. It straight up makes you sympathize with a serial killer, like a serial killer stalker. Like, that show is honestly, in my opinion, way more problematic than something like the Joker. Yet people love that. You know, season 2 I thought was real bad, but season 1 is like really good. It makes you sympathize, and you want this serial stalker killer, a guy who jacks off while stalking women, like, you want him to have a happy ending. And I'm like, how come no one's talking about this fucking show? What, is the Joker's dangerous now?
I didn't see that show.
Well, I'm just saying, like, the Joker's dangerous now? Like, that's insane to me, you know? No, the Joker, fantastic. It's one of the best films of the year, and, so good. So good. Loved it.
I can't watch a movie and not like think about the commentary that it offers on the world.
It can offer commentary on the world, but the thing is like, people are always saying they don't like it because it's saying, oh, it promotes this thing or that thing, but I don't think it does. I think it's so ambiguous that it's interpretive to whoever watches it. So if you go in there, because you've been so inundated with the controversy from the media, which, by the way, I was talking to Brendan about this, the media wanted something to happen, by the way. They tried to get something to happen, and guess what? Nothing fucking did.
Probably, because it would probably increase their ratings.
Exactly.
Or something like that.
Exactly. This movie is no more dangerous than Taxi Driver is. You know, this movie's no dangerous than any other thing. You, I think, is much more problematic, like I said. You know, there are a lot of films like this. Dexter, that dude's a serial killer, and that makes you root for him. It's like, what the hell? I don't understand what makes it. Yeah, okay, he kills serial killers. He's still a serial killer himself. It's like, what makes, like, I don't understand why people are harping on this film so much. If this controversy never happened surrounding this film, I think people would like it more. But they fell into it. They fell into the fear-mongering from the media and were like, this film is dangerous and it should be buried. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. This film is amazing.
This movie's just grounded. That's why I think that I don't like where Dexter is like very fictional. Like, this movie does play into a lot of things that
this movie is very fictional too.
It's to a degree. I mean,
it's just, I think it's just as fictional almost as something like Logan. It has the same very grounded style.
I'm gonna disagree with that, but that's fine.
You know, I mean, obviously there's superpowers in Logan, and there's no superpowers here, but it's pretty violent, and it you know, it's kind of the same sense of that. You know,
agree to disagree, man.
So, this film, I mean, a 4 is just fucking ridiculous in my opinion. I mean, it is crazy.
That's the way I see it, man.
It's crazy. I hope that.
I think like what would you give like Lighthouse? Because I think that's an incredibly well made film.
Right. I gave it a 5. Well, if you have to do it out of 10, I gave it a 2.5.
Would it lean more to a 6 or a 4?
A 5. I don't know.
I'm just saying, like, I
that's
just me.
I don't do that. I don't do that stuff. I just do. It's just like I gave it a 2.5 out of 5, or 2.5 out of 5, which would be 5 out of 10. Yes, if you converted. So yeah. Hey man.
So this is why I want to have you go first, or I wanted you to do 2 in a row.
Oh.
Because my number 2 is your number 1. And I just want to say one thing before I let you take control of it.
Okay.
I saw this movie and I was like, okay, I'm fine with this being number 1. Like I feel like this is going to be number 1. This is a great climax. I loved almost everything about it. Avengers Endgame.
That's my number 1.
So there you go. That's why I wanted you to do it.
It's my number 1.
You can go ham if you want.
Okay, I wasn't preparing. Okay, here we go.
Sorry.
Here we go. This movie is historic. And I'm being dead serious. It's historic. This is Star Wars in the 70s, Endgame in 2019. I'm telling you, dude, this was amazing. For Marvel to do a 23-film interconnected storyline and stick the landing, dude, is just absolutely insane. You care about these characters so much that they all have this finality to them. Some of them are carrying on, and you care about where they're going. And then the ones that end, they end perfectly, dude. And you're just like, oh, I love it so much. We did a whole 2-hour review of it on the podcast. You should watch it. This movie to me is groundbreaking. A lot of people don't consider it to be top tier cinema. I've been watching some top 10 lists from other critics and they don't even mention this film. And if you genuinely don't like the film, that's one thing, but I honestly think that there's this weird... Back in the day, T-Kettle, back in the day, films were driven by studios. People, in the golden age, people wanted to go see a new Warner Brothers film or an RKO picture. You know, they wanted to go to these films based on the studio system because the studios ran the movies, you know, and they're like, people loved the studio system. They're like, oh, that's the new RKO picture. That's a new Warner Bros. Picture. We got to see it. That's new MGM pictures coming out, you know, and then along the lines, like somewhere from there till now, we've developed this anti-studio mentality. A lot of people have. Where they don't like the studio system anymore. They don't like studio films anymore. They don't consider them real art. But they forget that back in the golden age of film, even though they're not crazy action films because they didn't have that type of technology back then, all of those films are studio films. All of them. They're all studio films. You know, and...
Movies are driven by capitalism. Well, studio films.
Well, yeah, that's the thing.
But they could still be fucking good.
Exactly. And I feel like there's this weird mentality now where people are like, they're going against the system of studio films and not just, you know, Avengers and Marvel films, but Star Wars films and Disney films in general. There's a lot of Disney hate that just happens now. And I think that people who are blinded by that they're really blinded to I'm going to say it, the genius of this film. Endgame. It's honestly genius. I mean, no other film has ever done this. Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, no franchise has ever done what Marvel did. And they started it before they were a part of Disney, and then Disney took over. Avengers, the first Avengers was the first Disney released Marvel film. So they knew where they were going, and Disney just gave them the tools to do that. And it is absolutely fantastic. And I love this film, and I don't think there should be a scoff like... studio films. I'm like, studio films are great. Any film can be great. And I loved this film. It's so good. Thanos is a compelling villain. And probably one of the best villains of like this generation. I mean, I'm put him up there with like Lee Von Cleef. And like all those guys, dude. Voldemort, all those guys. Mm-hmm. Love them all. Sauron. Yeah, hell yeah, dude. Awesome. He's so good. And what do you think about Endgame?
Endgame is fucking great. Yeah, I mean, like, pretty much everything you said. I like that they even, like, took it a step further. And all these characters that really never had that, like, full-blown emotional side of them, like Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Just instantly just hits you with the heartstring, like, hits you in the heartstrings.
True.
As you get to see his daughter growing up. It's like the one element that was, like, this is, like, his emotional anchor, and it's like like exploits it in like the best way possible.
Yes, that's what the Russos do. The Russos take characters, side characters that were the main characters in other movies, and improve them more than their own solo films.
Yes. I think I love Ant-Man because of this movie, and I never really felt that with his other movies.
Right.
Like, he was just a fun, like, he made
goofy
some
guy,
quirky lines or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. This movie is incredible. I really think it does the 3-act structure very well, too.
It really does. And it's 3 hours, and it goes by like that.
Yeah, it really does.
It goes by like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It earns everything the film gives you.
For sure.
Absolutely.
And my number one was my number one.
Let me just oh man,
baby, come on.
I'm trying to think. Give me the first letter.
P.
Parasite. There it is. Another film I didn't get to see.
Parasite. You were asking me if you should see this movie.
Yeah.
I think almost anyone could watch this movie.
Really?
I think that if I took my mom to see this movie, she would have a really good time with it.
Really?
It is mega funny. It's like, this is the way people have put it. It like breaks down the barrier between popcorn flicks and art house films, and it really does. Like I said with Uncut Gems, like, you can strip it away. It could just be entertainment, but if you dig deeper, it has more meaning to it. I think this movie like is that, but like tenfold. Like it is very interesting. What it says about like classism is like nothing I've ever seen before. It's like it's almost a very neutral ground that it takes, and it kind of just makes everyone out to be not the bad guy, but like there's flaws in everyone. And that's something that I like, because it's always fuck the rich, but like this is like fuck everyone a little bit. You know? Fuck everyone a little bit. And I kind of like that.
You know what's funny is that my mom wants to see it now.
She does?
I don't know, out of nowhere, she was like, "You ever heard of this movie Parasite?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
Take her to see it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I will. We might wait till it comes out on DVD.
Uh-huh.
But yeah.
It's just incredible. Like, the flow of this film is so fluid. Like, I've seen movies kind of similar to this, like Blow Up and Burning. But I think this movie is even a little bit more extreme with like the tone, the genre fusions, and it never really like feels like anything but itself. It's like its own identity. I mean, when shit hits the fan, it's awkward, uncomfortable, hilarious, and like suspenseful at the same time.
Damn.
It's fucking nuts, man.
Bong Joon-ho.
Yeah, and like the one thing that I said about it when I watched it the first time that I didn't like about it, or like I didn't love about it, I do now. This film like creates circles within itself, and I really like the epilogue now. I think it's very clever. I did get to see this movie twice. Actually, I've seen a lot of movies. I saw Marriage Story twice.
Really?
Yeah. It's fucking... I love this movie. I would definitely see it again. Like, any day of the week, I love this movie. It's a fucking 10.
Damn, dude. Love it. All right. That was our list.
That was our list. Man,
that was our list. Holy crap.
That was short.
It was short. But we're doing shorter episodes now, so...
Yeah.
You know, we didn't dive as deep as last time. You know. But,
So we probably got a lot of cool stuff coming up. I'm assuming we're still going to do the Oscar thing again.
We're going to do the Oscar thing again. That's, I think, February, I think.
Yeah. Make sure you come with an answer for everyone.
Yes, I will. And
then we'll do the same thing where you get like there's 2 points if you get the real pick, and then like you
one
get like
if
a second.
That's right. All right. I'm excited, and our next video is going to be our top 5 most anticipated films of 2019.
2020.
Sorry. Yeah, you're right. Oh my God. 2020?
We're done with that.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Well, everyone have a happy new year, and you know we both love Avengers Endgame, right?
Yep.
So stay with me here. I love you 3 Zind.